Our brains are incredibly complex organs. They control everything we do, from thinking and feeling to moving and sensing. One of the most fascinating aspects of the brain is that it is divided into two halves called hemispheres. These hemispheres, the left and the right, are connected by a bridge of nerve fibers called the corpus callosum. This connection allows the two sides to communicate and work together. Each hemisphere of the brain is specialized for certain functions. The left hemisphere is often called the logical brain because it is dominant in language, logic, and analytical thinking. It's the side that helps us with tasks like reading, writing, and solving math problems. On the other hand, the right hemisphere is known as the creative brain. It excels in spatial abilities, facial recognition, and processing emotions. This hemisphere helps us appreciate art, navigate our surroundings, and understand non-verbal cues. While each hemisphere has its strengths, it's important to remember that they work together seamlessly in a normal brain. The corpus callosum ensures that information is constantly shared between them, creating a unified experience of the world. In the 1940s, a radical surgical procedure emerged as a treatment for severe epilepsy: split brain surgery. This procedure involved severing the corpus callosum, the bundle of nerve fibers connecting the two hemispheres of the brain. The goal was to confine severe epileptic seizures to one hemisphere, preventing them from spreading to the other side and causing widespread brain disruption. Before this procedure, patients with severe epilepsy often experienced debilitating seizures that significantly impacted their quality of life. These seizures, caused by abnormal electrical activity in the brain, could spread rapidly from one hemisphere to the other, leading to loss of consciousness, convulsions, and potential injury. Split brain surgery offered a glimmer of hope for these patients. By severing the corpus callosum, surgeons aimed to create a barrier that would prevent the electrical storms of epilepsy from engulfing the entire brain. While this procedure didn't cure epilepsy, it dramatically reduced the severity and frequency of seizures in many patients. However, as with any major surgery, severing the connection between the brain's hemispheres came with significant consequences. The pioneering research on split-brain patients, conducted by Roger Sperry and myself in the 1960s, revolutionized our understanding of how the brain processes information. By studying patients who had undergone split-brain surgery, we were able to gain unprecedented insights into the distinct roles of the left and right hemispheres. Before our research, it was widely believed that the two hemispheres worked together seamlessly, with information flowing freely between them. However, our studies revealed that severing the corpus callosum effectively created two separate spheres of consciousness within a single brain. Each hemisphere, no longer able to communicate with its counterpart, operated independently, processing information and generating responses without the awareness of the other half. This phenomenon led to a series of fascinating and sometimes perplexing observations. In our experiments, we presented visual information to one hemisphere at a time, taking advantage of the fact that each eye sends information to the opposite side of the brain. This meant that by flashing images to the left or right visual field, we could selectively deliver information to either the right or left hemisphere. The results were astounding. When an image was presented to the right hemisphere via the left visual field, the patient would often claim to have seen nothing. However, when asked to draw or point to the object with their left hand, controlled by the right hemisphere, they could do so with surprising accuracy. In one of our most famous experiments, we presented a split-brain patient with two images simultaneously. The word hat was flashed to his left visual field, processed by the right hemisphere, while the word band was flashed to his right visual field, processed by the left hemisphere. When asked what he saw, the patient responded band. This made sense, as the left hemisphere, responsible for language, had clearly processed the word band. However, when asked to point to the object he saw, the patient's left hand, controlled by the right hemisphere, unhesitatingly pointed to a hat. This simple yet profound experiment highlighted the independent processing capabilities of the two hemispheres. The right hemisphere, though unable to verbally report what it saw, clearly understood the concept of a hat and could direct the left hand accordingly. These findings challenged the traditional view of a unified consciousness, suggesting instead that each hemisphere possessed its own unique awareness and could function autonomously. Section 5. The Speaking Hemisphere, Unveiling the Left Brain's Dominance in Language. Our research with split-brain patients provided compelling evidence for the left hemisphere's dominance in language processing. Time and time again, we observed that when information was presented to the left hemisphere, patients could easily describe what they saw or heard. They could readily name objects, read words, and engage in conversations. This confirmed the long-held belief that the left hemisphere housed the brain's language centers, responsible for both the production and comprehension of speech. In contrast, the right hemisphere remained eerily silent. When presented with the same information, it could not generate verbal responses. Patients would often deny seeing anything or claim they didn't understand the question. This inability to communicate verbally, however, did not mean the right hemisphere was incapable of understanding language. Subsequent experiments revealed that the right hemisphere possessed a surprising degree of language comprehension, especially for simple words and commands. For example, when presented with the word smile in their left visual field, split-brain patients would often spontaneously smile, even though they couldn't verbally report what they had seen. This suggested that the right hemisphere, though lacking the ability to speak, could still process and respond to emotional language. Section 6. The Silent Partner, Discovering the Right Brain's Role in Spatial Tasks and Facial Recognition. While the left hemisphere excelled in language, our research revealed that the right hemisphere was the master of space and faces. Split-brain patients consistently outperformed their counterparts with intact brains on tasks involving spatial reasoning, such as mentally rotating objects, navigating mazes, and recognizing patterns. In one experiment, we presented split-brain patients with a three-dimensional puzzle and asked them to assemble it. Using their left hand, controlled by the right hemisphere, they could effortlessly manipulate the pieces, quickly finding the correct orientation and fitting them together. However, when they attempted to use their right hand, governed by the left hemisphere, they struggled, fumbling with the pieces and making frequent errors. This stark contrast highlighted the right hemisphere's superior spatial abilities. Similarly, the right hemisphere proved to be far superior at recognizing faces. Split-brain patients could easily match faces shown to their left visual field, which is processed by the right hemisphere with previously seen faces, even if the faces were presented from different angles or with different expressions. Section 7. Two Minds, One Body. The intriguing case studies of split-brain patients. The unique experiences of split-brain patients provided a wealth of anecdotal evidence to support our scientific findings. One particularly striking case involved a young man who, after undergoing split-brain surgery, found himself engaged in a constant internal battle. His left hand, controlled by his right hemisphere, would often act independently, unbuttoning his shirt, or reaching for objects without his conscious awareness. He described feeling like he had two minds trapped inside one body, each with its own desires and intentions. In another case, a woman reported experiencing a strange disconnect between her thoughts and actions. After reading a recipe, she found herself unable to follow the instructions when using her right hand. However, when she switched to her left hand, she could execute the steps flawlessly. It seemed that her right hemisphere, having processed the recipe, could only guide the actions of the left hand, highlighting the lateralized nature of motor control. These case studies, though anecdotal, painted a vivid picture of the profound impact that severing the corpus callosum had on the subjective experience of self. Section 8. The Puzzle of Consciousness. What split-brain research reveals about our sense of self. The study of split-brain patients has had profound implications for our understanding of consciousness. Before our research, it was widely assumed that consciousness was a unitary phenomenon residing in a single, central location in the brain. However, the remarkable abilities of split-brain patients to function relatively normally, despite having their hemispheres surgically separated, challenged this view. Our findings suggested that consciousness is not a single entity, but rather an emergent property of brain activity that can be divided or even duplicated. Each hemisphere, it seemed, possessed its own form of consciousness, capable of independent thought, perception, and action. This realization raised profound philosophical questions about the nature of the self. If our brains could be divided, creating two separate spheres of awareness, did that mean we also had two selves? And if so, what happened to our sense of unity and personal identity? These questions continue to intrigue and challenge neuroscientists and philosophers alike, prompting ongoing debate about the relationship between brain, mind, and self. Section 9. Conclusion: a new perspective on the divided yet unified nature of human consciousness. The discovery of the split brain phenomenon revolutionized our understanding of the human brain. By severing the connection between the hemispheres, we gained a unique window into the specialized functions of each half and revealed their remarkable capacity for independent thought and action. While our research raised more questions than it answered, it fundamentally altered the way we view consciousness, suggesting that our sense of self, rather than being a singular entity, may be more accurately described as a collection of semi-independent agents working together. The legacy of split brain research extends far beyond the realm of neuroscience. It has sparked countless debates in philosophy, psychology, and artificial intelligence, forcing us to reconsider what it means to be human and to question the very nature of our own existence. As we continue to explore the mysteries of the brain, the insights gained from studying split brain patients will undoubtedly continue to shape our understanding of the mind, consciousness, and the enigmatic relationship between the two.